Hi, everybody. So I've got numerous different stories that I want to tell you today. I usually, when I'm a plenary speaker, I like to tell stories and then get you guys tweeting questions, and then I'll answer them as I go. So first off, when Diana and Hope gave me a shout and said, hey, I'd like you to come down to the Physio Congress. And I thought, oh, great, what date is it? Oh, the 18th of June. I thought, oh, the day before school finishes. Do I want to go to a Congress or deal with the students? And I thought, you know what, going to the Congress probably would be a good idea. So it's been an eventful week for me the past couple of weeks, and I'm also the director for 3 Kilometers for 3 Fathers, which is a run that we started last year for the 3 fallen police officers in Moncton last year. So we had over 7,000 people participate last year, and we've got over 2,000 people participating again this year, and we're in crunch time because that's on Sunday. So apart from that, school finishing, we also had the Norwegian soccer team on Sunday night, and the coach is an acquaintance of mine from my coaching days in soccer, and we decided to have the lobster feed with 26 Norwegians. So it's been a really eventful week for me. And then this morning, I was telling Diana, and I'm going to share this story. I don't know how you guys are going to react to this, but it was pretty funny. Woke up this morning, and the dog was licking my face. And I have another dog, a golden retriever and a chocolate lab, and he's licking my stomach. And I'm thinking to myself, I get up, and I'm like, what's going on? And I lift my head up, and there's brown stuff all over the place. I thought I crapped myself. So I'm going nuts here, and my wife's just smiling at me, laughing. And I thought, okay, there's something going on. I guess last night, working on my presentation, I had chocolate in my hands and dozed off and had no clue. So there was chocolate from one side of the bed to the other. So that's been my week, but I'm excited to be here. If you want to ask any questions throughout the day or throughout the afternoon, I'm coming back at 3:20. I'd love to have your questions about the other presentations. You can tweet me at Doucet Armand or Physio Congress, the hashtag, and I'll take a look at it. So why am I here? Well, number one, I've worked a lot with physios. Lots of different projects on the go. And I've been lucky enough and smart enough to associate myself with people that are a heck of a lot smarter than I am. And physiotherapists tend to be a lot smarter than I am, so I'm a bit nervous up here today. And this is one of the physios that I've worked with, Heidi, who's on the left holding my pants, so you guys do a bit of everything here. And this was during one of the events that I'll mention in a few minutes, but Heidi was a big part of this event being successful. And I've worked with numerous physios around New Brunswick and around Canada, and I'm really happy with the work you guys have done. I'm just here to suggest ideas. And that comes to the part to play. So a couple of years, well, actually last year, I ran what's called the 30-30-30-90. And basically what I did is I ran 30 kilometers, 30 days in a row. And on the 31st day, I ran 90 kilometers for kids to do 30 minutes more physical activity a day. Now, what's not known in this event is the weekend before, my wife decided it would be a great idea for us to go snowmobiling. And I've never snowmobiled in my life. So I got into a little accident, ended up pulling my hip flexor the day before I'm supposed to do the 30-30-30-90. Call Heidi up. Heidi, please, can I see you tonight? Yes. She comes in around 10 o'clock. Get some treatment. I was able to pull off the first day and kept pulling off day after day, but it was really a struggle. So the physiotherapist in that part had a huge part to play. I regularly saw her basically every day. But what I want to talk about here is part to play. We all play different parts in some of these projects, and it's not necessarily big parts or small parts, but they all end up getting you towards that goal. And when I was running these 30-30s, my wife was pregnant, and we found out maybe 2 weeks before the event, and my wife, being my wife, said, we're not telling anybody before 12 weeks. And I thought, okay, how am I going to keep this inside? And I'm running with all my friends, and I'm seeing all these people, and I tend to talk a lot. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to say anything. So my wife participated in one of the runs, and her heart rate was sky high. And I was nervous, so I checked it online. What's this about? And it was normal for her, if she was pregnant, for her heart rate to skyrise. So I thought, okay, not a problem. The next day, I meet one of my physios. Her name's Julie McGivry, and Julie's running with me, and she's checking her heart rate monitor. And I was like, where's your heart rate? She was like, it's like at 180. And I was like, what? Is your Garmin off? And she was like, no. I was like, "You're pregnant." And she was like, "How did you know?" And then we were bantering back and forth. So you know what? That was like on day 20. And for me, it was huge. It got me over that hump. So when I say there's a part to play, there really is. And if you see the kids on the picture, every day for the different schools that we were part of, we had 13 schools overall. Every day that I did a 30 kilometers, somebody would wear a shirt that would say the number of the day. So number 1, number 2, number 3. And we got a lot of people participating, over 5,000 people during that event alone. So now, this is my beautiful baby girl. I thought I'd put her in there, finishing that story. She's now 7 months old, full deck of hair. I'm lucky she looks like my wife and not like me, but we're good. So about making a difference, all these projects that we've done, the one thing that I have noticed is that everybody can make a difference. And physios have played a big part in all of my projects. This was the start of the 30-30-90. About a year before, we decided that we should test my VO2 max. And this picture in particular, we had hashtag Bane for anybody that follows Batman, and the kids thought that was really funny. But we did a lot of prevention beforehand. So we took a look at what needed to be done so that I could succeed in those 31 days. And we got some things right, some things wrong, because it hasn't been done a lot around the world, so we needed to really take a look at. But by making a difference, it just takes that first step, and that's what these journeys have taught me. It just takes one step, it just takes one idea, and then you get together, and then all of a sudden these ideas go exponentially larger. So the things that I want us to talk about today is, number one, networking. And as a teacher, we are extremely poor at it. Teachers as a whole for centuries have pretty much been in isolation. We stay in our classrooms, we do our job, then we might network a bit with other teachers within our school. We hardly ever go outside of our school. We hardly ever go outside of our province, and forget about going outside of the country. It's very much a rare few. And what I've noticed over the years is that in a lot of these projects, different fields tend to do the same thing. So doctors tend to stick with doctors, physios tend to stick with physios, engineers tend to stick with engineers, unless you're doing these cross-curricular projects or cross-subject projects or cross-profession projects where you need to get involved together. And even to that account, like if you look at the World Cup right now, there's the medical field, they stay together. And then there's marketing, they stay together. And then there's logistics, they stay together. But they hardly ever talk between each other. And I found that the more I do these projects, the more networking is actually the key to a lot of these successful projects. And basically by finding the right people, the people that are extremely smart in those subjects, and then delegating and finding a way to get it done. So on an exercise physiology part, for me, I know that there's people a lot smarter than I am. Even though I have a kinesiology background, these physiotherapists that I've worked with bring a lot of knowledge to the table, and then we can interact. And by doing that, we make connections. So networking for me is extremely key. And I found throughout the years that if you don't have a LinkedIn account, you're behind the 8 ball already. LinkedIn for me is one of the accounts already that helps me connect with the right people in the right fields. And then Twitter's another one. We just went on a social media campaign, and we had a social media PR expert come in. And they said, if you're not in it, no matter what field you are in, you're already behind the 8 ball. You're already struggling compared to the rest of the people. So networking is key. Now, for an interaction between physiotherapy and educators, it might be a handshake. You might know a teacher that teaches middle school, elementary, high school. Shake hands and say, hey, what can I do to help? And I can tell you right now, teachers will jump on it pretty quickly because we need support. And we're at the point now where the funding's out and so on. So we do need that support, and you guys are experts in a field that can go into that STEM education and so on, which is a key for us for the future, to be able to innovate, publish, create in education. So getting involved, to me, is the key to a lot of the issues we have in Canada, and I'm from New Brunswick, so in New Brunswick in particular. Our obesity rates are through the roof in New Brunswick. We have literacy issues, that's for sure. We have broken homes. There's all sorts of reasons why, if you get involved, it's going to be successful. When I talk about broken homes, oftentimes they have two parents working. Oftentimes the child will not even see the parent. They see the teacher all the time. If a physio comes in, works with the child, you're a role model. You're taking the time to work with that child. So getting involved, you've already made a difference just by getting involved. And with the obesity rates so high, well, I'm hearing the medical field talk about obesity rates, and prescribing exercise, but they're not really following up on anything. So they're just leaving it up there in the air, and they're a $1.1 or $1.3 billion industry, I think, in New Brunswick alone. It might be even higher than that. So why aren't we doing prevention? Well, we're not doing prevention because prevention's not sexy. It's that simple. It's not going to get you reelected. 4 years down the line, we're not going to see the numbers drop. We're going to see it 30 years down the line if we start doing prevention. So what do I mean by prevention? It's pretty simple. Now, we're talking about innovation, and this is one of the projects, and when I go into prevention, I want to talk about innovation first because I think that's the key to it. During Harry Potter Week, has anybody heard about Harry Potter Week or saw it online? No? Okay. So you're not one of the 1.8 million people that saw it online across the world. So this started at our little school at Riverview Middle. And we came up with the idea, myself and a few other teachers, and we sort of looked at the literacy scores, which were some of the poorest in Canada. And we said, you know what, we got to do something to get them excited about reading. So we thought, why not transform our school into Hogwarts? That'd be a great way to do it. So we worked really hard, and you see the floating candles, everything in there. We dressed up, the whole staff dressed up. It was a full week of events. We had some of the actors send out videos. We had events like the Tri-Wizard Cup. We had Quidditch. Everything you can think of, we did during that week. And it was a hugely successful event. Like I said, 1.8 million views. But that's a cross-curricular event where we networked, we brought in some marketing, we brought in some people that are carpenters, we brought in all sorts of different people to come in to help us out with that type of event. It's innovative. It's something different. It's something that the kids can publish things, they can create things, and they were pretty excited about it. Now, how does that work with physiotherapy, and how does that work within the schools? A couple of ways. I'll go from elementary to middle school to high school. So elementary, first off and foremost, I know in New Brunswick it came out, there was a paper that came out that said basically New Brunswickers were now becoming physically illiterate and it was hurting the trades. I would actually argue that it's not just not just hurting the trades, but it's also hurting surgeons, pianists, wherever you want to go, it's probably going to hurt that field. And one of the reasons why is physical education now in the schools are only 30 minutes twice a week. That's if you're lucky, okay? Most of us grew up doing physical education every day. If you're younger than I am, probably not. If you're older than I am, definitely so, okay? So that's an issue. So how do we solve that issue? And I hate the word I can't, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. Yes, you can. You have to figure out what you can do. So for elementary schools, what about a partnership with math? So we put out a hopscotch out in the schoolyard, and they're doing math. So whatever they answer, they need to hopscotch. They're doing physical literacy and math at the same time. We could put a speed ladder out, and they could be doing something with words. So they need to jump to the certain word. So if it's an animal, make the sound, so on and so forth. So we're helping out with physical literacy. And by the physio coming in, remember that we only have 2 classes of physical education a week, mostly in elementary school. Most of the time, it's not a physical educator doing that. It's somebody trained in something else. So either trained in math, French, English, sciences. So they're struggling to come up with things to start off with. And then once they implement it, they don't know where to go in terms of correction or technique, biomechanics, what they should or should not do. I've seen one phys ed class, they played tag for 30 minutes with first graders. Well, after 2 minutes, they are done. All right, they're sitting down, they're complaining, and then what happens? They don't like physical education. So when they come to middle school, then we struggle with them. Why? Because it's all been built up from the start. So how can physios help out in that? You can come into the schools and create these types of programs and help out. And maybe even create the program that says, hey, this is what we're going to do this week. Teacher will gladly take it and jump with it, as long as it's built up to around the curriculum. And it can be as simple as even manipulation. So we're looking at ratios. And they don't do ratios in grade 1, but so if they're doing ratios and you say, okay, you need to beat a half, and then they're throwing. So they're throwing things. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do it in elementary school. Middle school, it's even better. So you go to middle school, the first in grade 6, they do the muscles, the bones, and so on. Ask a question. So what muscles are you using when you're running? And then they would have to figure it out, maybe run. You could do all sorts of things in that situation. We just did one in grade 8 where it was a student-centered. Mine are very student-centered. I don't like to lecture, which is contrary to popular belief anyway. But we did how to reduce stress at RMS. So RMS is Riverview Middle School. So my kids got in groups of 4, and they were the ones that needed to do the research. So they started by calling out experts. So what do you think we should be taking a look at? So they called a psychologist, they called a physiotherapist, they called a yoga expert, they called all sorts of different people. And then from there, they went and they started to do research. Then they came up with a proposal. So this is the proposal, some of them came up. We believe that we should sleep 10 minutes a day after in 5th period so that we would be awake and rested for 6th and 7th period. And honestly, I knew it was tongue-in-cheek. But I said, okay, if you can prove it, we'll try it. So they came out with some great literature that said a power nap is good for kids. So we tried it. Ended up failing miserably. And the reason why it failed miserably, well, they came up with, we didn't have any beds, people were chatting, people were laughing, so it's probably not useful unless we have that opportunity. These kids don't realize that unless they try it out. So one of the things that we talked about, and Diana and I talked about quickly, is meditation and breathing exercises would be very good. So breathing exercises, I know some of you physios are experts in that field, that would work very well. So that type of training, coming in and helping out the kids and showing them how it's done, that would help. And then you go to high school, well, it's all about STEM education right now, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. The sky's the limit for your involvement in that. Right now, I'm thinking of 2 different projects that we're trying. I'm at Riverview Middle School right now, but I'm going to Riverview High School and teaching history and social studies. But I do a lot of these projects on the side. And 2 of the projects, major projects that we're working on right now is how does wearable technology influence health for middle schoolers? So we had a lot of Fitbits that we bought and that we were going to put together some research where the kids would research their own numbers and see if it's going to influence their health, their eating habits. Are they going to train more anaerobically versus aerobically? What are they going to do and why? So that's one of the projects that we were working on, which obviously physiotherapy, there's a lot of different fields that you could help out there. The other one is I'm trying to motivate kids again to be active, so we're thinking of doing the Race Across the America, which is basically going from California to Washington in bike, and you can do it alone, groups of 2, groups of 4, groups of 8. So I would like to bring 7 ambassadors from my school, so 7 students, and they would do it researching. So in physics, they would research how could we become aerodynamic with the bike. So where do I need to go? Can we get to the wind tunnel? Can we call the experts at NASA to see how it works out? So this is all types of stuff or types of projects that we're thinking about that are outside the box, but still hit the curriculum. And I see physiotherapists as a key to that in the future. I see doctors as a key to it also. I see nurses as a key. But physiotherapists, you guys are the experts in exercise physiology. I know there's arguments out there. I know there's all sorts of different things saying, but you guys are the experts in that field. You have 4 years of background in biology, kines, or whatever, and then after that you go do another 4 years in physiotherapy. In my books, that's worth a lot. So I believe that you guys play a big part or a major part of how we are going to turn back the tide, basically, and go into a healthy society. I had a chance to go to Boulder, Colorado, and I cringe when I say this because I don't consider the Americans a very healthy society. If you look at the size of the pops you can get at a 7-Eleven or so on. But Boulder, Colorado is incredible. You get there, there's bike lanes all over the place, everybody's active, they hardly drive. It's very much what I see a community being that is healthy. And I think if we are going to get to that situation in Canada, we really need to take a look at how we do things. And treating people once they're hurt, instead of trying to get there beforehand, I think is not the way to go. And it's definitely the way to making our healthcare system crumble very quickly. So I invite you guys today, when you're listening into all the other presentations that you're going to be going to, fire off questions. Go to the hashtag Doucet Armand, at Doucet Armand for Twitter. Send them off. We'll talk about them after you guys have done those 3 sessions. Or hashtag Physio Congress. And what's the Twitter? Is there a Twitter account for that? PhysioCan? PhysioCan, there you go. So, or at PhysioCan, and fire them off. And I'll take a look at it. And anytime that you guys have any ideas, I believe a lot in collaborating. I just shared 2 of the biggest ideas that we have at the moment. And why do I share them? Why do I not keep them just to myself? It's pretty simple. Bouncing them off, they become better, okay? And I understand that some of you are in competition. You might own 2 different physiotherapies, and you might be in competition for numbers and so on. And thankfully, you're not like orthodontists where they're basically selling everything right now. But it's key to bring out those conversations and have those conversations so that you can collaborate, have a true brainstorming for those ideas to come out. And I invite you to share any ideas that you do have. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And if you have any questions, I'll take them after the 3 sessions. Thank you.